At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Panelist.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Panelist.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of On Point. We are here to discuss issues affecting our nation, and we have some experts here that will be delving into those issues. Obviously, Liberia is hot. We have political issues of all kinds, and we are going to go through them. With me are panelists, people that you are familiar with. We have Mr. Benjamin Kofa Fanir. He is a presidential candidate, and he's going to be on to give us his own opinion as it relates to issues on the ground. And on the other hand is my co-host, Mr. Jimmy Eastman from the nation's capital. He also going to opine on issues happening on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, panelists, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
Starting with Ben.
Well, I want to say thank you for having me. To every Liberian hearing the sound of my voice, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, hello, wherever you are in the world. For Focus on Africa, it's always the best place to be in terms of discussing and dissecting the issue in a civil atmosphere. I'm always happy to be here. I will always respond to your invitation, Mr. Gimme. I want to say thank you for inviting me, and Mr. Eastman, thank you for being here. Everyone hearing the sound of my voice, I say hello. I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to a vibrant dialogue. Thank you.
Mr. Eastman.
Hey, Jerome, good evening. Ben, it's a pleasure to be here, gentlemen. You know, our tiny little country is so significant. We led the struggle for independence in Africa. For every man, woman, and child with African heritage to be free. So what goes on in our country is quite significant. This year is our election year. A lot going on. It's a privilege to be able to discuss these matters and throw light on it so that our people will be more informed of their significance and how they can affect the entire Africa with what they do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, we're going to be asking you to please share the show. Like the famous saying, your friends may not be my friends. You have your own inboxes. We are having problems lately with folks inboxing me that they are not getting our alert messages. We are working on that. So we have to personally, manually go back into our own inboxes and invite our friends. So Mr. Eastman, within the next 5-10 minutes, we are hoping that you will share it on your page. You will share it personally in your messenger, WhatsApp, whatever it is, so we can get going. The show is divided into 3 parts. We're going to do the introduction. We're going to discuss the issues, and then we're going to have our audience get involved either through comments or through telephone calls, and then we'll do our closing. Mr. Eastman, we're having some developing issues on the ground. Let's begin with the Million Man March yesterday. Before the Million Man March, there were people from the opposition, the detractors, One particular is Mike Jabata sent me something in the mail in my inbox. He and his supporters were saying that nobody should attend the Million Man March. Attending the Million Man March and showing up in mass will send an indication to the president that he's loved, that his policies are working, and that they are endorsing him. So they went on a public relations stunt. They went on every network discouraging folks to turn out, not to turn out. But yesterday, the opposite happened. Liberia was on a lockdown. The world was on a lockdown because, as we know, there were folks from all over the world calling and endorsing the president. What is your take? The crowd that you saw, the people yesterday, what is your take, Jimmy?
Well, Mr. Gaiman, definitely the march shut down Monrovia. You know, that town is a small town. And with that many people descending upon it, including the president walking from as far as 9th Street all the way down to the ATS, the Anthony Tubman Stadium, the whole town was on fire. I say they definitely maxed out the stadium capacity. They were all in the streets on night. It was a reasonable turnout. I think it was a little bit shy of 1 million, though, to be honest. But then there was a correction that the Million Man March was for people not just in Liberia, but all around the world to show up. So we saw broadcasts from Germany, we saw broadcasts from Canada, various places in the world where they were pledging their support for the Weah nomination for the next 6 years. So it was quite a turnout. We heard that the opposition was accusing of money being handed out to support the march, and many people were paid, in fact, to go out there. And so that was interesting, but it doesn't shy away from the fact that people they showed up in droves. In my estimate, there was anywhere between 10,000 people easily on that field, over 10,000. All depends on how they were scattered all around the town, because there were meetings at the headquarters and everything. So I think it was a decent turnout. But what is that? Whether that converts to votes, that's what we're going to see in the next few months.
Benjamin Kofa Fennell, you have a special interest in what happens here. The turnout yesterday was massive. Talk to me.
Well, I think first, let me say this. I think the rally has what I would call a misnomer. It was kind of wrongly named in terms of people saying it was a Million Man March. I want to say this because I'm a numbers guy. First thing is the population of Monserrate County, based on the census, the last census we had, is 1,118,000. So there is an impossibility that there was a Million Man down there yesterday. Now, let me say this. Like Mr. Ismail said, I will give the crowd a maximum. I would say, let me tell you, because I'm dealing with numbers here, 100,000. Let me tell you why I'm saying that. 100,000 people out there in comparison to the total voters, registered voter in Monserrate County is 881,000 plus. Give CDC 11.35%. So if I was a member of the CDC, even if I max it up to 100,000 people showing up, that is 11,000. That is 11% of the votes in Monserrate County. So I think if I was a member of CDC, I would be scared. That's number one. Number two, The program was a petition, and the president accepted the petition. But this is what I didn't get from that program, because these things have to be planned. I didn't get the basis of the petition. There was a good job done. There was an expectation in terms of more good work to be done. And, during the acceptance, I didn't hear anything. I only hear, yes, I accept. So I think there was an issue regarding messaging. And the third thing I want to say, in Liberia, it is very easy to put folks in the street. But at the very least, I would expect us to put people in the street with valid reasons. What I want to say, my last word here, I was a little bit disappointed yesterday because the basis for re-election, I don't see it based on the numbers that I see from Liberia. So I was just kind of confused. And the final thing I want to say, I see people from what I call opposition. They were insulting those people out there. I said, no, don't do that. The people who were out there yesterday, they have reasons for which they are aligned with George Weah. What people like myself should do is to make counter arguments in terms of what was said out there yesterday, to kind of convince those people that we have the best in terms of alternatives to what is transpiring. So I want everybody to treat them with respect, embrace them, reach out to them, and give them convincing argument that we have another strategy that we think is more workable and we think can transform their life. But overall, I think I will give that thing like a D+. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Fennell. I got a question for you, but I want you to stay tuned. There was a major development in Liberia today. Today being Sunday, President Weah mounted his podium and he addressed Prince Johnson directly. We will discuss that at the end. Stay tuned because this is a developing story. For the first time in the history of Liberia since the war, that our president is standing up to Prince Johnson directly, telling him to go and sit down somewhere. But we'll discuss that. Mr. Eastman, we are talking about numbers here. Yesterday, when we looked at the numbers, prior to yesterday, we heard people say it's going to be a flop. Nobody's going to turn out. Some people were saying the economic situation is so hard that nobody's going to come out. The politics, the propaganda, all of these things were happening. But when I turned my TV on, I'm talking about from 7 o'clock, when I turned 7 o'clock Liberian time, when I turned on the TV and saw the people, I'm talking about massive amount of folks showing up from everywhere. And I'm saying to myself, something might be amiss here. The opposition, as usual, they are playing with a striker, a gentleman who is a striker. His job is to strike. And his job is, he's a tactician. Here we have all these highly educated folks. They call themselves, they got all these monikers, they got all these degrees and all these titles. And yet and still this man keep proving them wrong every time. Mr. Eastman, what are you seeing here that the opposition is not seeing?
Well, they're all in naysayers. But if I look at mobilization and the effectiveness of this mobilization plan, they did mobilize a lot of people. A lot of people coming for us. There were buses running. They did finance. They did move people, and no one can doubt that. What people are saying are the numbers what they claim to be. I think that is only the point of contention. But to say that it wasn't a massive movement on the 4th, no, there was a massive movement, conscientizing a lot of people about the Weah nomination. So anybody who was claimed otherwise, it will be misleading. I think what is significant though is, will it lead to votes? Okay, we saw the people moving. So this could be the beginning of something. And I think for the CDC to be successful, they're going to have more successful rallies like they did on Saturday. They're going to need more.
Mr. Dualu, welcome to the show. It's always a blessing to have you on. Today we're gonna out you. You are a Unity Party man. You are a supporter of Joseph Boakai. There's no escaping from that today. We will not allow you to escape. But Mr. Dualu, honestly, we saw the numbers yesterday. We saw CDC promise that they were going to bring people out in the streets. They mobilized, they planned, and they did it. What is your takeaway from this?
Thank you so much, Mr. Gay, man. A little bit of apology for running. Got stuck in traffic. But I'll say this. Look, I listened to my brother Eastman and even my brother Ben, and they tried to put numbers on it. What I did was I actually sat down, listened to me very carefully. The entire registration of people in Mozzarella County, the voter registration roll for 2017 was 777,503 people registered in Mozzarella County for 2017. Of that number, let's take 5% of that number. 5% of that number is around 38,700, just a little over that. Okay? The entire stadium, 4,000 people. Let's take the number to 10,000 people. If you include the pitch, the entire square footage of that stadium, outside and inside around the stadium, is approximately 20,000 people maximum were in that stadium, in and around the stadium. If you factor in the rest of the 14 counties, so the total that came out was about, let's say, 20,000 people. This is a very good number. Now, I want you to consider several factors here. This is Monrovia, where literally 85% of young people are unemployed. When the CDC-led government promises drugs, alcohol, and food, people will come. Anywhere you're having party in Liberia, secondary. The president was going to be president. He brought in all the comedians in the country. He brought in musicians. People wanted to have fun. They show up. Here's the issue. President Weah, by himself, 2005, 2017, well, 2005 and 2011, President Weah could not go over 28% of the vote. This is at the height of CDC, where CDC was the most populous, where people were literally printing their own T-shirts just to go see President Weah. They were following him because of this love. Now, President Weah has ruled by fiat. He has ruled in the most negative way and destroyed this country to many instances. He has a record now to run on. Here's the issue. The only reason why CDC approached 37.65% 2011 first round was because they teamed up with Prince Johnson's party and they teamed up with the MDR. Here's the issue. They could not win by themselves. Nothing more than 27, 28% CDC when they had all the other collaboration. With the way CDC has ruled, and Nima County is gone completely. After today, Nima County is gone. I'm so excited about that. CDC, this is my prediction. The maximum CDC can get in these elections, first round or second round, doesn't matter which round, will not go over 25%. And I give it back to you guys.
Thank you very much. This is a gentleman who supports Joseph Boakai. At the height of Joseph Boakai, when he was vice president, he lost 14 out of 15 counties. That's when he had power. Now that he has no power, I don't even think he's in the calculation. I know, Ben, you wanted to say something. Now, Ben, before you go there, I know you are a presidential aspirant. Tell me, could you, in your wisdom, in your infinite wisdom, tell me, could you have organized, mobilized, and brought up that many people in a time and giving? And tell me when and where this is going to happen.
Okay, no. First thing first, let me attend to some things that both of the guests said. The first thing I want to say, you raised a good point. You said, what is it that the opposition don't get? Why is it that we still have folks being drawn to the CDC? I want to say this: the opposition, the leadership, they do not have coherent or sufficient counter arguments. From yesterday, like I said first on the show, from yesterday up to now, what I see is members of the opposition castigating fellow Liberians. They can be from CDC, they can be from whatever party. They are Liberians first. They're castigating them. Nobody is saying, why are these people attracted to CDC? Dwalu sadly said something that I disagree respectfully. He said, well, drugs and alcohol were thrown out. I don't think that is a fair assessment of our people. What's happening here is there is not sufficient counter arguments being made. ANC, UP. I mean, what is the basis for even seeking power? What is their blueprint? What programs do they have to even assist the very young people that were in the streets? I mean, yesterday. So, in the absence of sufficient argument, where some of the folks who side with them, we castigated. I mean, look at what George Weah. I mean, I will tell you this: I don't back George Weah, but yesterday he made a masterful play, and people should start to study this. When George Weah spoke, one of the things he said, "Now I will speak to you in colloquial." Simply means we are ordinary people. The people say you people don't know nothing. The people say you people are not smart. What he was trying to play there was that there is a mindset, of alienation. Me, what I'm doing every day in my little way, like you asked me, I'm trying to reach out to Liberians, every shades and color. You're in CDC, you are in ANC, whatever you are. I want to sufficiently convince you that I present a better alternative. And that's what the opposition should learn from what happened yesterday. We should now say, okay, can we craft a better narrative that these people will understand? Even though we disagree with them, they are still Liberians. If we win an election, we will still have to govern them. So we must have to have a strategy in terms of meeting these people at some point where we can have a dialogue. So, Dwalu, one last thing I want to say, I have information of the roll from NEC for 2020. They updated the roll, and the Monserrado County total registered folks in that place is 881,065. So you see, people were out there yesterday, but I will tell you this: I will give them no more than 11% of the votes in Monserrado County. The CDC has dwindled. They have dwindled significantly, but we have to present a counter narrative in terms of winning these people over to our side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, we are having problem with our notification. I'm getting a lot of stuff here that folks are saying they are not getting our notification. Please, gentlemen, continue to share this show. If you're watching, please share this show. Join the debate through your comments and through your call. Mr. Dualdo, it just came on. Could you please share the show on your page and in your network? We want to go out here real quick and recognize people who have been on here supporting us here. Mr. Carpet, Adventurous Carpet, Zah is here, Frank Davis, Scott Prince, Don Teo, Glennis, obviously Glendy is here. We have Mr. Gazima is here. Frank Davis, we got all of our friends. Please, we recognize Sylvester. This is Sylvester Sigby, Sylvester, Kiadi Moba, and we will recognize you as we go on. But thank you for tuning in, and we are reading your comments. This is beautiful. Mr. Eastman, the president made a comment yesterday, like he said, he is a populist. He is saying to the folks, the opposition is saying we are nothing. We are not educated. We don't know anything. But at least we all know 6 + 6. And the choir went wild. When he said 6 + 6, they said 12 years. 12 years. This is a masterful communicator with his people. And he's telling the folks that the common sense of the world, the broadcast of the world, they are disconnected. When they come with a BB English, for those of us who don't know anything, never went to school, they insult us. They tell us we don't know anything. We don't know anything. But do you know 6 + 6? And the crowd went, why? Yes, we know 6 + 6. 12 years. Mr. Jimmy Eastman, this guy is making a ring around the opposition here.
Well, he has become a masterful politician. He's speaking to his base. A lot of Liberians have felt disenfranchised by past administrations because they were maybe not as educated or not as affluent, and that's everybody knows this is a grassroots party. This is where the people have hopes that their livelihood will change, that they will be able to move from on a mat to a mattress, that it will move from in living in a zinc round to a Congo. So that is has been the aspirations of a whole lot of our fellow Liberians. And one of the things that was touted in the last election was hope. So even though he's using that same rhetoric today, the people have a record of performance for the past 6 years. So how well will that resonate tomorrow? It's different. It's one thing when people don't know how you perform, but now they kind of have a record of how you perform. So it's going to be interesting to see if the same results come back again. I think he's going to have to pull more things out of his repertoire that will appeal to people. That same, the people don't count us will not be enough this time around. He's going to have to reach deeper. That's my understanding.
Great. Moses, Sam Wallow, Benedict Yima, Stephen C., Gazima Wallerman, Francis Mensah. Thank you very much for tuning in. Now listen, there's a lot of political development here. Mr. Ben here, you are somebody who is in tune with the presidential landscape here. We are seeing, before we go to the next topic here, something happened in Liberia in the past 2 months, and I want you guys to keep it to the back of your head. First, we had an unannounced visit by the director of the CIA in Liberia to visit President Weah. And upon his leaving, invited Mr. Weah, President Weah personally, to the CIA office on his visit to the White House. I want you to hold on to that while we go on to the responses from the opposition. I think Mr. Ben touched on it a little bit, but from the responses that I got from the opposition, it sounds like there's panicking going on in these camps, because the responses went from being intellectual to straight derogatory and condescending and profanity. Mr. Dualo, you take a shot at it. Why all of this venom?
Let me tell you, there is no venom. My brother Ben mentioned something. I don't think he understood me quite well. Let me be very clear here. Moba Molu spoke at the CDC headquarters. Maybe Ben been out of Liberia too long. He's forgotten the local lingo, and I hope to remind him. When you were suggesting you're going to put somebody in Zigo, we're talking to one of you're talking about drugs and alcohol. This is what Moba Molu said. I'll paraphrase here. He said, listen, come tomorrow, come all tomorrow. Whatever you want, we will have it there. We'll put you guys in Zigo. What does that mean? It means you're going to introduce drugs to our kids. Let me tell you something. President Weah appeals to the most vulnerable of our population. This man goes into this shrine masquerading as a church, and he literally destroys the faith of Christianity. He sits up there and pretending to have a church. And only at that pulpit, he spews nothing but garbage to the population. He never addresses the country as a president should from the executive mansion or from any government administration, but he goes to his church and he spews all this garbage. Look, when you're telling our young people you're going to put them in Zigo, you're going to give them alcohol and drugs. That's exactly what that means. And Ben, it's not putting somebody down. Let me tell you something. There is a base of CDC. It doesn't matter what you do. President Weah will have his 5 to 10% base. They will always still. President Weah can murder, in the words of Donald Trump. President Weah can murder people on Broad Street, 10 people on Broad Street, and they will still support him. You will have that kind of sycophantic base on any political organization, the likes of CDC, that is so meditating in many ways. That doesn't mean you're to doing that. President Weah will be measured based on what he is produced, according to Mr. Eastman, and myself believes it. He has a record to run on. Every money, this man has upped our national debt to almost over $1 billion that he's contributed to the debt. So our debt now stands at a little over $2 billion. When Ellen came to power, it was over $4 billion. She managed to get our debt removed, not just she alone. There was a bunch of debt waver across the continent. But now we are over $2 billion. What has President Weah done with that $2 billion? With the exception of building his own condominiums and literally flying private jet, storing money out of the country. If you have people all over, oh, where's your evidence? Are you serious? Look at the evidence. When Samuel Tuek could not complete a 3-bedroom house, this man can afford to send his children to boarding school in the Ivory Coast. What are we doing? They will be measured by the record, and we are watching. I'll give it back to you guys.
Great. One of the things that Mr. Dualo is good at is throwing numbers around. When you look at Liberia's debt, is $1.3 billion. When Weah came in, it was close to $800 billion. I mean, $800 million when Ellen left. So President Weah has increased the budget a little over $400 million. So in 5 years. So that's it. But
have you seen the debt?
But listen to this. When this young man talk about people giving drugs and alcohol, these are the things that we say the opposition has to be in a panic mode. For the Joseph Boakai mouthpieces, people who love Joseph Boakai and the Unity Party to come out and say there were no work, no mobilization that went in because the 100, 200, 300,000 people that showed up in the city, and those all around in Saniquile, in Buchanan, in Foya, all over the country, they came out because we said we were going to give them drug and alcohol. I am telling you, I see panic here. Fennell, go ahead, Mr. Finn.
Yeah, I mean, just to, it is sad because I don't like to talk for the for the state right now in Liberia, but what I see is, like I've been saying all along, the opposition needs to craft a counter narrative. You see, it is okay to be emotional. It's okay to be amped in terms of your views, but we must be rational in terms of trying to convey our message in a convincing fashion to our people. It is okay to come on the show and say, well, the people, they gave them alcohol, they gave them drugs. Fair enough. But where are the counter arguments to the CDC? Where are the substantive counter arguments? Where is the roadmap? What if something happens to anybody in Liberia? I mean, what if the ANC win an election today? I mean, the UP win an election. What is the roadmap? What is the first 100 days plan? How are we conveying those messages to people on the streets? So, we can raise all these arguments we want. The problem is the more angst that we put out there, the more we drive these people to identify with George Weah. We should rather be in a state where we say, no, we are conciliatory, we understand what is going on, but we have a better alternative in terms of what you're experiencing right now. Then we can start to make, some reasonable, comparative analysis. But, I will say this, I cannot come on the show and say, to store or to do this, especially so in the absence of what I call corroborated evidence. I will not accuse anybody of theft unless I have my hands on pieces of evidence. You see, those are the kind of things that make your argument reasonable and it makes your argument stronger. But if I'm accusing somebody of theft on a hunch, what happens to the next day if somebody accuses me of theft on a hunch? You see, so these are the kind of things that we have to build so that people in Liberia, will start to look at us differently in terms of how we want to conduct business. That's what I say for me. In my first day, if I win the election in Liberia, I will institute a forensic audit. And those who will be found culpable as a result of that audit, then we can take it to court in terms of prosecution and demanding restitution. But in the absence of evidence, I cannot accuse anybody of stealing. I cannot do that. It will be wrong because someone else can do that to me too. Now, the last thing I want to say. Last thing I want to say. You see, the opposition in Liberia, some of my friends, you see, when something happened, you have to be measured in terms of your reaction. You have to consider the totality. You have to consider the environment where that thing is happening. But what I see today, I'm telling you,
two politicians chasing babies now.
You know, I mean, just like Niger. I don't see anything measured in terms of, you know, assessing what happened and a reasonable response. Because for me, like I said, like I made a post yesterday, I'm identifying with the ordinary man and woman in CDC, government officials, George Weah, Akara's Gray, you know, T5, all of them, their lives have improved. They are different from what they were 5 years ago. Similarly, I am demanding, or I'm requesting, I'm appealing to ordinary people in the street that no, you too, you deserve some level of improvement in your lives. You too, you deserve that. Whether you're in CDC, whether you're in any party, at the very least, everyone deserves some kind of upward mobility. Those are the kind of argument I would give to people in Liberia that no, we will all rise together, not only a few bunch of people. Thank you.
Mr. Eastman, I know we got a developing story here. This bombshell today from the Faulkner Clone Church about Prince Johnson and what is going on there. I want you to ponder that a little bit. I want you to keep that on because it's a developing story. I know your sources are typing it and sending you information. We will discuss that. But this response here, from what I'm seeing, and I think for the maybe one of the few times I will agree with Mr. Kofa here, is that usually we say in a debate, when an opposition begins to resort to profanity and vulgarity, they have reached the depth of their intelligence. The vocabulary have dwindled. So we are seeing here the political strategists, the tacticians in the Joseph Boyka camp, the ANC camp. One of the smartest people that I know is Mr. Dualo. And Mr. Dualo now want to relegate everything that happens in the CDC camp as though we are not importing drugs and alcohol. This is what all those folks you saw over there, he said, we are now giving them drugs. We are not giving them alcohol.
Nobody told you all the people are repeating what Baba Molu said.
Excuse me.
I want to say the distinction. I didn't say everybody.
For you to have quoted it means that you may have actually, because you are interpreting what he said. He never said it. You said that the word he used. Your interpretation is that he will give them drugs. He will give them alcohol.
What does it mean?
Whatever. He has to define that. I don't know what it means. I can't say that. Mr. Eastman, it tells me that the opposition, if there's any, individuals have reached their width end. And now they are throwing the mud, like they say in America, throw the mud and the kitchen sink and see what sticks.
Well, I listened to Mobile Molo's speech myself, and what he was trying to do, he was trying to rally the troops, and he used will do anything, we'll put you in Zigo. Zigo is also a catch term for everything. Make you feel, give you jolly, make you happy, make you laugh. So it can be a lot of things, but the idea it is to increase your happiness, your state of happiness. That's definitely the meaning of that. Yeah, exactly. That's what it's intended for. And it had the effect. Soon as he said that, the whole crowd burst out and said, yay! So they were happy. The fact that he will promise them, look, we'll make you happy. And that is the intention. I don't know if his intention was to distribute drugs, and I will not go with that. People will do what they want to do. I don't think he will ever succumb to distributing drugs. But people do what they want to do. When you give them money, you expect them to behave in the way they should behave. Okay? But again, if we do not start that same kind of energy that we saw on Saturday, if we could channel that same kind of energy and make our youth excited about trades, about going into business, about developing their capacity so their life tomorrow, because people's life will not change. Their life will change as we go into functional, productive challenge. We input to our youth, and so that they will bring the.
Mr. Eastman, I think you're breaking up.
That is the challenge. Handouts.
Mr. Eastman, you are breaking up badly.
Okay, let me say that, and let me do something. I come back.
Okay, great.
I'm good now. I say the challenge really is not handouts. We have to develop our youth. We have to give them the skills, the training, the ability to earn money on their own. That is what is going to change their life. This handout, there's a thing in Liberia what we notice. Everybody said, let me get small thing. Let me get small thing. Small thing will not help us because for the rest of our lives. The only way we will stop being beggars, the only way we will stop laying down on the floor and have up is if we know how to do something to earn money. We have a skill that people will pay for. That is supposed to be the main goal of the CDC and everybody else. Let's improve our youth, give them the skills they need so they themselves can bring Liberia up. But this handouts and stuff it's a wrong approach to building a nation.
Well, one of the things that you need to look at, I think right after the SONA, when the president spoke, the World Bank and the Liberian government signed a $96 million contract. That grant was meant to boost what you were talking about. Prior to that, there was another $50 million that was signed in the agriculture sector that we know will increase employment for the young folks. There was another show that I was listening to, another anti-George Weah show, but they said something that made sense. And the host said, everybody that's looking for a job, he said, even though I am an opposition, but are we employable? We know that you are unemployed, but are you employable? If a company came to Liberia today with 500 jobs or 10,000 jobs, let's say a call center or manufacturing, are you ready? Are we employable? Now, the government, yes, Mr. Fanel, go ahead.
Yes. Now, you see, Mr. Gayman, you see, these are the kind of dialogue I want to have. This is where I will hold you accountable and the government accountable. You see, you just made a key point. And these are the kind of counter argument I expect the opposition to be making. The young people out there, I can estimate reasonably maybe 95% of them don't have a job. You see, so the government has a huge responsibility in ensuring that these people, their talents, their potential, they are developed. So if I was even in that crowd, I would start asking my friends. The government, we are cheering for George Weah, fair enough. What is in it for us? What programs, do they have available for us to benefit from? The government that we are cheering today. What
come in, man.
No, hold on, let me learn. You see, those are the kind of arguments I want to hear from the opposition, because I will tell you this. The World Bank just stated something that is frightening me. They said in the next 3 years, poverty in Liberia is expected to rise. I don't see any programs in terms of the government taking action to address what the World Bank have stated based on research. So these are the kind of things I would talk to people. I say, well, it's okay to be with George Weah, but at the end of the day, something needs to happen to you in terms of your upward mobility or the improvement of your own life. You will have children, you have a family, your children will have children. They too deserve a future. Mobile Malu rides a big car. A Caribbean rides a big car. I'm not saying you ride that same car, but some kind of positive change needs to occur in your life. And those are the kind of messages that will be there. So just like what you said, if the call center comes to Liberia, I must make sure that Liberians are capable, they have the skills in terms of working in that course, and that's part of the government responsibility, making the environment possible that your citizen will thrive. Thank you.
Mr. Ishmael, let's move on. We're coming back to this, but let's move on. We are still watching the developing story in Liberia. Is President Weah's sermon today at the Fucking Clone Church hitting back at Prince Johnson? What does this say about the state of affairs of Prince Johnson? Is President Weah taking a page out of Ellen Johnson's book when she told Charles Taylor, you go to Calabash, I have your back, I will protect you. When time came and Uncle Sam said something, all of a sudden, Charles Taylor is in custody. So we'll come to that. But let's go to the third one here, which is working with indictees. We are talking about government. We are talking about folks. We are talking about morality. We talk about ethics here. Let's talk about those when our three officials were indicted, not indicted, but accused by the State Department. Everybody in Liberia in opposition said they should be fired. In fact, they should be persecuted. Nobody should even negotiate nor even associate with them because they were accused by the State Department. Here, we are seeing the opposition, and particularly the bigger voice on the platform that was Mr. Stanton Waterspoon. We're seeing Waterspoon. This time, it is not an accusation, it's an indictment with evidence from the federal government. And yet and still, those same people who were talking about equity in government in our private lives are now saying we should pray that our brothers should not fall, despite the fact that the evidence against it is overwhelming, and it's a mountain of evidence. Mr. Eastman, where do we stand as a society in Liberia, as people in and outside of Liberia? The diaspora of Liberia should be the most educated, the most advanced. And here we are, we in the diaspora, we are pushing a new narrative now that we should pray for this young man to not fall, that we should wait. Where do we stand? Your take on this?
Wow. That would take all day, but let me try to take a stab at it. You know, because we've been through a lot of strife, civil war for 15 years, many of our standards, our morals, our beliefs were broken down. Let me use that word. What before the war, when you saw a red light, a traffic light, and it was red, you knew you had to stop. When the war came, those traffic lights were not working. We started to ignore these lights. It was just a free for all. When we tried to reestablish law and order, we have not yet brought everybody back on board to respecting the law, having their own sense of moral code to do the right thing. So the impunity has set in. We do things, and we just sweep it on the rug. And this is why people cry for the wartime, the war crimes court, because people should not be allowed to do. The only way to dissuade bad actors to punish them. As long as you are not punishing bad actions, it will continue. We in this country here, we know very well, if we go out in the street and be drunk in public, try to fight and do violence, we'll be arrested and we'll go to jail. Because the punitive system is established to stop that. And we Liberians, I have heard things tossed around like we are all one family. You cannot look at things like that, because it will only encourage the same action. You have to take these actions to discourage bad actors. So, and that will require leadership. That because it has to come from the top down. The Supreme Court, the legislature, the executive, all of them have to lead in this. And as long as they're not leading, would you expect anybody else to to do anything different? That is where the leadership will have to come from, where we begin to stop this culture of impunity and punish wrongdoing. Until if we don't ever start doing that, nobody else will follow suit. And that's what's been wrong. What we see here happening today with one of the talk shows, it's surprising. It's everybody. Part of this thing, it looks like it's greed. People want to get over the best way they can. Well, I will not judge anybody until the verdict. So I'm not judging here. I'm only saying one of the things that make people do things that are wrong is greed. They want more than what available to them. Again, this is something that comes from within. So if we don't discourage the tendency, some of the bad tendency in a human being by giving them punishment, then they will become bad actors. But you try it in this country, they will slap you and go to jail. If that was in Liberia, it might have gone without even notice. You call one somebody, get a little something, and it'll be finished. We have to. This is where the leadership is so important, Mike. Jerome. This is where the leadership is so important that we have to show that we cannot continue the way we were surviving before during the war. Now it's a different day. It cannot be the same anymore, and that requires on top.
Let's be clear, Mr. Dualu here. We are talking about equity. We are talking about morality. We're talking about ethics. We are talking about a bunch of folks that have been very, very vocal when it comes to devices in Liberia. Now the ball was in their court. And even I'm shocked that Dr. Richardson, Dr. Peabody, Timberlake George, even the Kev Hassan, forget about Fangon because he's a loose cannon. But we are talking about folks who says that McGill, Serena Cephas, and the gentleman from Bekube Jr., nobody should even visit them, not even get a phone call. Nobody should be associated with these people because they were accused. And here we are on the same panel. The United States federal government has indicted with overwhelming evidence, over 120 pages of evidence from text messages to recorded messages to evidence of you name it. And yet and still, people are saying we should pray for Mr. Stanton Weatherspoon. Mr. Dualu, what happened to our ethics, our morality? What happened to being fair?
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I don't know what's going on with my mic. I want to say this before I answer that question very directly. Mr. Eastman mentioned something about vocational school, and Ben kind of alluded to also making sure we empower the young people. President Weah has absolutely no interest in empowering the young people for this very reason. The more vulnerable they are, the more he can control them. So he sees this as an opportunity to get vote out of people who don't know what they're doing. So he's not going to educate them to the level that they should be educated to improve the society. But I would say this about Stanton. You know, in the Liberian community, we forget one thing. We don't understand that society goes far above the individual. It goes back to Liberia. Mr. Eastman said this bad. If it was in Liberia, it would not even be noticed. We forget something. If a man makes a decision, calculated decision, knowingly, and he takes an action, I will not judge the brother entirely just yet, but the courts will judge him. We see the evidence and we know the numbers according to the FBI. The FBI has over 90% would plea out before they even go to court. The bottom's 10%, 8.9% of that 10% will get convicted. So it's a big case of being against Stanton. But the issue, I want Liberian people to understand something. You must always side on the side of the victims, not the person who made a decision to commit a crime. Praying for the brother, it shouldn't be praying for society because there were direct consequences of his decisions, Look, I say this all the time to young people. There is nothing in America, criminal act that you're going to try that has not been tried before. This is why this is a developed country. You got to be extremely smart to pull up stuff like that. I mean, this guy was running a great operation initially. This is a school, register, everything was legitimate. What made him go the extra mile? I don't know. Maybe greed. But at the end of the day, you have to sweat for it, or else they're going to come after you. And I'll give it back to you, Mr. Gayman.
Ben,
yeah. Last thing I want to say, they show that my good friend Dwalo seemed to be my good friend today. You know, Dwalo, let me just put back. You said, George Weah don't care about the youth. That's why he doesn't want to empower them. You know, what I can say to that, I would say, for the last 5 years, I would say George Weah has not done enough, because youth empowerment, I don't think we can attribute the, totality to George Weah. I mean, this thing's been happening like a long time ago. People, the Unity Party did it. You know, internal government did it. It's like a long thing. What I would say, I would just expect George Weah to do more, because since apparently most of the people who identify with him are young people, I think he too should be more interested in terms of improving the lives of those who are,
Bear, I can't let you continue without saying this. You say you want him to do more. Listen, you want him to do more. That implies you are doing something for the youth. What is he doing for the young people like you? But if you want more, there's an implication, but you get my point.
No, listen now. Government is a continuity. So whatever the Unity Party did, no, listen now. The later the Unity Party did, I expected him to build upon it and escalate it to to the next level. But let me just say this: Stanton case, Stanton case worries me in this light. It's okay to hold him accountable. We don't even need to hold him accountable. Stanton will face American justice. He will have his day in court. What bothers me about this case, and I have not talked about it, because it's been bothering me, is that the level of hypocrisy of Liberians. We have rogues running the country, rogues. And, I don't see the same vehemence, the same agitation, the same angle. Let me just give one example. Edwin Snow, how did he become so rich? How did he become so rich in Liberia?
You gotta stop, Ben. You were just saying there's no evidence to prove. Now you are saying this?
No.
That's circumstantial evidence.
I say how. Then let me go one step further. NOCAL, right? NOCAL went bankrupt. It is estimated that almost $240 million disappeared based on GAC audits. And I don't see the same uproar. I'm just saying, how are these things happening and we are not angry? And, Stanton cannot escape. The FBI has a huge, conviction rate. My thing is, I look at Liberia. We have people who have been subject of audit reports. I'm talking about audit reports. Number one, we have the sitting agriculture minister. She has been indicted by the GSC. We have the National Election Commission of all people indicted by the LACC. She's still there. So you see, the hypocrisy bothers me, because Stanton cannot escape. I don't even think about him, because whatever he did, American justice will hold him accountable. I look at it, but I wish this same anger, level of disdain was shown out in terms of people who have been named in audit reports in Liberia. People, they have been named. The Minister of Agriculture, she's still there. So, but I think the degree of hypocrisy that I've observed to it is, it makes no sense. Thank you.
Mr. Eastman.
Yeah.
Let's use the same stick, the yardstick, to do the measurement here. The opposition from Spoon to Coaster to everybody, they were saying nobody should be associated with these folks. Nobody should be seen with them. So how come Dr. Francine Richardson, that was the lead of these people, should run out of town? Anybody seen with them should be denied. Sanctions should be like a contagious indictment. Anybody who associated with these folks. So why are they still associating with Spoon and Spoon TV or Spoon Talk Show? Why are they still around when they are saying nobody should associate with anybody who were accused, not even indicted but accused? How is that dichotomy? How is this possible?
You know, let me before. I mean, it's obvious they are still continuing to associate with him. But have we ever examined why we feel sorry for people no matter what they fall in? We human beings have a capacity called empathy. We feel sorry for people no matter what they did. Even you'll see some people even empathize with serial killers, people who have killed several people. Why? Because they think maybe the person has come from a troubled background. Maybe they didn't have the care and love. Maybe they were terribly hurt. So even though this guy is a heinous criminal who has committed grotesque crimes, because of our empathy, we feel sorry for them. That is not a bad thing. We are naturally disposed to be empathetic. But here's the thing. The system has to discourage certain behaviors.
Yeah.
If it doesn't discourage the behaviors, our safety will be in jeopardy. So that when you do not enforce punitive measures on your people, your society will be unsafe. That's why you have to put the clamps on crime, no matter who does it. Now, with Spoonty, I'm still saying the man has to have it in court and be judged by his peers. I'm not going to render judgment. I do know they will continue to be on that program because I think by right he should recuse himself from it. It happened with the case of Rudolph Murdoch with his media. He had to get out. That's what you do. You have to recuse yourself from there so that you take away the distraction of your crime or your case from that entity. So I don't see that they're still on as a bad thing. What I see as a bad thing is that we do not pursue to the end. When someone is accused, give them the day in court. Yeah. Why haven't we gone to let the people prove they're innocent or not? We shouldn't just let it linger.
Yeah, but
it's like leaving a cancer in your body. It's going to come out.
Mr. Eastman, that is not what we are discussing. The question here is, these people have a standard set. They are saying once you are accused, not even indicted, when you are accused, your right to association should be denied. And anybody who does so should be sanctioned as well. If that is their standard, then what ground do they have? Mr. Fanel, go ahead.
Yeah, no. You see, Mr. Host, I just hope you are not trying to make a mistake here, because under the rule from the U.S., Treasury Department, this is, page 2 of it. It has a headline called Sanction Implications. It says here, in addition, persons that engage in certain transactions with the individuals and entities designated today may themselves be exposed to sanction or subject to an enforcement action. So that was a line in the sanction that was placed on those individuals. You see, this is it right here. So so I think what happened, the folks that you are talking about, maybe they read that line, because if you read it, it says sanction implications. That is what they put on. McGill, all of them, their names here. What they're saying is there are implications for people who will be associating with these people at any level. So maybe that's a line those other people that you assume were just repeating. I don't think they are the one who made that up, because it is part of the sanction regimen. It's right here.
Yeah, but I think the president pro tem and the justice ministry, they made it clear, according to the Liberian rule, and that law is also predicated on law in the United States, that every human being has the right to associate and disassociate and have the right to making a living. So that is not possible. I think it was read. They were talking about doing business. That if you know that the person's accounts and everything that has to do with business has been shut down and you are doing business with that person, yes. And if If proven, you too can be also. Mr. Dualo, let's talk about the double standard here. And I always quote your famous Speaker of the House from Massachusetts, Tip O'Neill, when he said everybody loved their own crooks. Few months ago, we were all about execute them, prosecute them, execute them, and now it's in our court, and now we are saying, no, guys, even though we have mountains of evidence, and the statistics here shows that the federal government indict their indictments, they have a 99.6% success rate. That means for you to be found not guilty without a plea bargain is 0.04%. If I had that odd against me or against anybody, relying on this government, the United States system, that does not play politics, that does not take side, I can actually put that in the bank and say, if I were to tell you to disassociate, I will have a better stand than they did in Liberia. What do you think about the double standard? Is it okay for us to just accuse everybody, and then when it comes to our time, we say, you know what, we'll wait for the case to go to court?
There's no double standard here, Mr. Gaiman. You're reading into this too much. And I will say this to you. You know, this is what we do in Liberia. Everybody claims they're innocent because, well, nobody took me to court. So technically, I'm innocent. This is lunacy. You quote Hotel O'Neill. Everybody loves his own crook. But this is what I would say to that. Every sedition deifies President Weah. They don't just love him, they deify him. It is their God. So sedition are taken to a whole new level. But I want to say something. I remember many years ago, when you become a non-commissioned officer in the United States Marine Corps, you go to something called leadership school to become a leader, how to lead men. And one of the things they always tell her, and I'm just saying this to bunch of what Mr. Eastman says, he talk about punitive consequences to people's action in that society. It's always about the elevation of society. There must be compensatory and punitive charges, and it has to be immediate and effective. Let me tell you something. This is what we learn in School of Infantry. It's very simple. Your men, your subordinates, should not fear you, but they must fear the wrath of your action when it comes to enforcement of the rules that govern that entity. In order for that entity to continue and be strengthened, you have to be uncompromising by law enforcement in that society. In Liberia, we refuse to do that. It's not double standard. Let me tell you something. The Americans understand this. Here in this country, the laws will be enforced. In most of these third world countries, especially when they bring these sanctions on, the reason they want this association because we have a tendency to shield criminals in places like ours where we refuse to enforce the law. So it's okay. In the meantime, until these investigations are done, we are going to make sure this guy is not hiding his money. He's not continuing to do business all around. President Weah has refused. The Americans, they didn't just charge him blindly. They presented evidence, and they are willing to go to court with the evidence. President Weah has refused to do his job. Under any circumstance, he has refused to prosecute these guys in the court of Liberia. Let them go clear their names. They can't be walking around talking about, oh, technically, I am not, I can't be charged because I have not done anything wrong. It's been months since these guys were charged, and the evidence is glaring. They're all out there. I'll give it back to you.
Yes, I want to jump in here, just to reinforce what my co-guest just said. You know, it is a shame and it's an embarrassment that when this thing happened, George Weah announced an investigation.
Correct.
But we've heard nothing about it. We've heard, you know, those are some of the minuses I expect the opposition to be highlighting. You know, there was an announcement in terms of these people being investigated. So George Weah, to some extent, is contributing to these people alienation because he hasn't given them the opportunity to clear their name in a court of law. So, he too need to act. But, you know, just what my friend just said, you know, gave them an opportunity in a court so they can actually prove their innocence or their guilt. So George Weah has a huge responsibility, and that's one of the things that he should be held accountable for himself. Because these people, I mean, this is a disgrace. We have the LACC, the GAC, and we have the Treasury Department convicting our officials of this kind of heinous act. Then what are the LACC and GAC doing? You know, so, you know, these, I mean, this was a national disgrace for us. Thank you, sir.
Let's go to the bombshell here. I've been getting a lot of inboxes here, information in my inbox. Let's go to the last one because we need to give our audience, we need to give them time to comment, and we need to read some of the comment. If there are calls, we go through the calls, and then we'll be out of here. Mr. Eastman, let me start with Dualo here because, ladies and gentlemen, we have to give Mr. Dualo the respect every time he comes here for his service to our nation. He is a respected U.S. Marine, former U.S. Marine, and every time I see these guys, I take off my hat. Anybody who has served in the military in any form, I take off my hat. And I want to start with him because this one has a military connotation. Mr. Dualo, Prince Johnson is now in the news. For a while now, Prince Johnson has been known as a strong man, and he has rendered and he has used that title to the zenith, to his advantage, to the point where the United States government said he took it too far when it comes to even pay to play. And upon that, the United States government said, this man is so bad off that he cannot sit on the intelligence committee in Liberia. And as long as he's on there, they were not going to do business with Liberia. And the pressure made him to get off. Now here we are. We were listening to President Weah today in his church. President Weah is saying that Prince Johnson is a con man. He's a blackmailer. He wants to extort money from him. And this time around, it is not going to happen. And if he wants to leave, he can leave. I mean, we talk about some powerful messages here coming through. As a military man, as an intellectual, as a writer, as an analyst, I mean, what do you read in this? This is serious.
Oh, it's very serious, and I'm loving it. Let me tell you something. There is a
tell her why you love it, though.
Yeah, there's a phrase out there called "crossing the Rubicon." And to give a little historical background, Julius Caesar, you know, he was in Gaul. The Roman troops were in Gaul. Now, they charged Julius Caesar with treason. They were going to try him back in Rome. And he said, you know what, I'm not going to be tried. I'm going to come back and attack Rome. So it's a little river. He crossed the Rubicon. Basically, it's a phrase meaning all bets are off. Prince Johnson, President Weah has crossed the Rubicon. He's insulted Prince Johnson.
Manipulate. I'm impressed. I blow a program until I came from a water home, I blow a program. So people don't impress me. So the people that you doing people every day when they're ready, they want to blackmail you. Anybody that don't want to vote for us will not be blackmailed. Anybody that will ask me for money because they're going to declare for my party, I'd rather get money to the people that when you can speak to them on the table now, they're going on air, you have to let somebody want to kill somebody? Yes, sir. But you forget to know that those that you killed already, the people that maybe they're already there, they're not go and say somebody want to assassinate you. Who are you? That's somebody who go here. Because nobody want to work with you. You manipulate people every day. Are you infallible? Okay, we know what you can go where you want to go. Now you can say, government will kill you. No government will kill you. Do you know why you get in the country? We're trying to make sure that everybody wants to do something. You understand? So, and we're not afraid of anybody. And the government is not going to be attacked, neither or blackmailed by anybody. You don't want to work with us? Go on the side. You got other people.
Here we have it. I mean, Dualo, you got
Let me finish my talk.
You got a whole package there. I mean, yeah,
let me finish my talk. The whole package is there.
Yeah.
President, we are across the Rubicon. You know, in the rules of engagement, and when you're handling a weapon, there are 5 rules of the handling a weapon. I'll just list 2 for you. Never point your weapon at anything you don't intend to shoot. Always keep your weapon unsafe until you intend to shoot. President Weah has already shot. He crossed the Rubicon. I love this because Nima Kante is gone. I will say this to you. President Weah is accusing, he's been playing with Prince Johnson for the last 6 years. Prince Johnson is not asking President Weah for money. He's asking for what is justly due to the people of Nima County, something he's been charged to do. President Weah doesn't want to pick up the responsibility he has for the people of Nima County and in that region. When Prince Johnson began asking him for it, he tried to turn it around because he can no longer buy the man. Prince Johnson is writing a new chapter. And part of this new chapter, he's trying to play the game in a way that elevates himself, that leave a better legacy for him and his people in Nima County. Talk about all the crimes he's done for Liberia, and that's something that should be addressed equally so. But President Weah has crossed the Rubicon, and I can guarantee you, Honorable Prince Johnson is going to respond in a way that elevates the opposition.
Ben, I see Dualo is laughing here because he's from the Joseph Walker camp, and now I can see him on a hand going talking to Prince Johnson. But here we are here in our Bassa vernacular, in our African, our Liberia, they say a dog measures his behind before he swallows a bone. I think President Weah sees something here. Something here. The man is looking at, he has the ace card, like he says. He's setting, look, politics is symbolism, okay? Those are all who study sociology and inequality and social stratification. We look at symbolism. Where was this man standing when he was speaking? Real quick, where was the man standing? Anybody? Where was President Weah standing when he was talking?
I want to say something. No, he was.
Answer me quick. Where was President Weah standing?
He was standing on his altar. I mean, he was standing on his.
He was the bullet pulpit. Go ahead. Yeah, he was at a pulpit. There you go.
Okay, you see, Dwalu, I listened to you, and I'm a little bit sad for the opposition, especially so in this time, this day and age, to be somehow buoyant, joyful that Prince Johnson could potentially align with them. You know, for me, it saddens me. This man is a despicable character. The fact that he's dominating politics in Liberia now should be a disgrace for me and you. This man is as despicable as they come. So, I mean, it boggles my mind that rational people will be hoping that there is some kind of conflict between this man and George. Let me say this. I want to emphasize this on this show. What I have seen so far, I will credit George Weah for finally mustering the courage to stand up to this man. I mean, who is he? This man is one of the reasons that I was a refugee. I mean, it's not even me alone. I mean, I'm talking about thousands of Liberians. So how can this man, after all that murderer tract, completely unaccountable, and he's somehow prominent in today's Liberia, and people are hoping that there is some kind of conflict between he and George Weah? If I were George Weah, this man, we wouldn't send him to any war crime court. We would just enforce the TRC report. The TRC report recommended Prince Johnson for prosecution.
Do that. We want you to do that. Do that. That's a good thing.
I mean, that's what you see. For me, it bothers me because I have friends, I have loved ones, I have family members. My brother, one dad, one mom, he was beheaded. Rebels and these are the people who play this kind of key role nowadays. They are deciding the fate of the country. It should bother us. It should make us angry. This is just the total shame for everybody. I mean, if the opposition who say they know how to do things, more than what we have right now, if they are hoping to open their arm to embrace such a character, it shows they have no integrity. It shows they are a bunch of hypocrites. Thank you.
Mr. Gayman, let me say one thing, 2 seconds. I'm begging you. Nobody's embracing Prince Johnson. We are making sure President Weah do not take on a line with Prince Johnson. President Weah has to go. And anybody that ensures President Weah goes, I'm all for them. Not the crimes they commit.
Mr. Eastman, we have
Mr. Gayman.
A smart man who is a Unity Party man. They were in power for 12 years, did absolutely nothing. In fact, they're worse than anybody. Their own auditor said, John Molu said, that they were worse than Charles Taylor. If your own auditor can say that, something is wrong with you. He is supporting a man that Costa called 6 years ago. He was a dead man walking. 6 years later, I don't know what is it. You were dead 6 years ago. I don't know what are you now. But here we are. Someone is saying in my inbox here, President Weah has finally figured out, tell the people in Nima County that the folks in Nima County want to extricate themselves from this narrative that wherever Prince Johnson tells them, they are the herd. They have the herd mentality that because they are from Nima, if Prince Johnson tells them to go jump in the river, they're all going to jump in the river according to Dualu. Here we are saying President Weah has looked at the landscape and finally figured out that the people in Nima County, they will prefer development and individualism over the herd mentality. And finally, he is now exercising this ghost and say, Prince Johnson, the people of Nima are ready to be liberated. They were liberated, but you have been in their way. Finally, we want to get rid of you so that Nehemiah can celebrate on their own. What do you see in this as a tactical point from a man who is a politician like you are, or a diplomat?
You know, it would be nice that all of a sudden we have this epiphany that we have this big question among us that shouldn't be there. But you know where all this thing stems from? When was the sanctions levied against Prince Johnson? It was December 9, 2021, right?
Correct.
The U.S. government sanctioned Prince Johnson. So right now, he's not as useful anymore to anybody. It's so simple. They're telling you this man is sanctioned. And then his usefulness is not as before. So today, when you want to use your leverage, you got none because you're already sanctioned. It's not somebody all of a sudden they wake up and they see, we want to extricate ourselves from. No. It's unfortunate, but Uncle Sam has to get in our business and sanction certain people before these people eyes start to open. That's what happened. Then when the sanctions were put on him, it followed a statement they made in May that they say he's responsible for certain deaths. And then the next thing you know, in December, they sanction him. That is where all this thing coming from. So he's lost his leverage. That's why he's not running. He's not going to run. He's not going to be on the ballot. But what I'm seeing, though, we haven't seen the results of these things on the other three members for sanction in December or August this year. That is the interesting part. So we need to see some more development. But all of this that happened, it is because of the sanctions that they placed on him in 2021. That is what's come to roost today.
Right.
You know,
right.
And
go ahead.
That he's claiming that people are running after him. I don't see what good or how it would benefit the current administration for running after. I don't see the benefit. He said some people are following him. I don't see the immediate benefit. You know, what good is it going to do? I mean, there has to be a motive. You know, there may be some people behind him, like where Bekube said. He said maybe that's some of the spirit and behind you are the people you
cross the Rubicon. I'm telling you, cross the Rubicon.
I don't see the benefit of the administration. I don't see it. I don't see they don't need to. And beside that, they have finished firing the mean bomb. The man's a sanction.
Yeah,
he already got serious trouble on him. Bekube doesn't have to do anything to him anymore. He already got it on him right now.
Mr. Dualo. Mr. Dualo, you and I have been at some of the major meetings, United Way, Bank of America, all of these places. Usually, when you are negotiating at the table, you negotiate for the position of strength. Was Prince Johnson smart to negotiate in public, to try to be a bully as though he was 20 years ago? You know, if I was in his shoes, I would be playing the kingmaker by being a diplomat. But by trying to use the same old tactic that he used in 2004, 2005, 2011, 2016, in public, in plain view, do you think it was a tactical mistake on his part?
Let me tell you something. I'm going to say one thing to Ben first. Ben has a moniker, a Samuel Doe, a notorious murderer. He wouldn't say nothing about it. He loves Samuel Doe without any hesitation whatsoever. But let me tell you something. Over the last few months, President Weah has been on his knees begging Prince Johnson every single day. He sent everybody to Nima County, to Prince Johnson's house. They've been begging. Because their begging have not gone through, they come back in the public and try to say, oh, Prince Johnson. Look, everybody understands Prince Johnson is a criminal. He's a war criminal. The likes of Prince Johnson should not be in our body politics. We've said this a trillion times. But because people, the president we have refused to enforce the law, this is why people, the Prince Johnson, will continue to have clout in that country. Say where you worry about Honorable Prince Johnson. He has tremendous clout in Nima County. He can sway vote massively, whether you like it or not. This is why President we has been kowtowed to him for the last 2-3 years, hoping Prince Johnson will come to his way. Let me say this to you. The people of Nima County have been neglected by this administration. This administration has refused to give the people of Nima County the money. Asking for Nima County's money is not begging President Weah for money. And President Johnson should continue asking for their money. And all the senators and the representatives of Nima County should continue asking for the money. If I were a voter of Nima County, we would not vote for the CDC-led administration until our money is paid in full. In full. I'll give it back to you.
Well, obviously, the worker camp is still trying to pry away Prince Johnson and giving him prop. Sir, President Weah have never and will never abandon Nima County. In fact, there are other counties that are envious that President Weah is doing too much in Nima County. In fact, President Weah was born in Nima County. Ben,
yes.
Before we go to the comment section here, he refused to. You see, he kind of glossed over the question. The question was, if you are at a negotiating table, you negotiate from the position of strength. Did Prince Johnson cross that line? Did he stretch himself further than he thought he was worth? If you are in that position, will you be in the public glare and threatening, making statement where the U.S. ambassador is looking?
No, you see, sir, sorry, I really don't think I would have the right response for you because it disgusts me to discuss such an individual. It does. You see, and, you know, for me, I'm sad in terms of the depths to which Liberia, you know, fell. I mean, let's look at this thing. I will be honest from every indication. That's why you see opposition folks now. They are comfortable to bring people like Daniel Cheer in their midst. They are comfortable to bring people like
Louis Brown,
McIntosh, Louis Brown, simply because Liberia as a nation, we have refused to implement the TRC's recommendation. McIntosh and others, these people were recommended for bans in terms of holding public offices. I mean, this is not something that I designed, that anyone else designed. International folks in Liberia invested in the TRC. The TRC made recommendations that are sitting there, and we have people who were even listed for the heinous nature of their crime, still wielding power in 2023. And you know, my brother and my friend Dwalu, who is a very good friend of mine, is literally in an anticipatory mode in terms of expecting Prince Johnson to come to their side. You know, I think everyone should kind of shoo this man away. I mean, he has outlived his usefulness. The best place for him is first to face a court of law and face the full weight of the law. Liberia as a nation has to move on. We have to move on as a country. These people are holding this country back. So, you know, I would say this, I don't back George Weah, but for the first time, I side with him in terms of standing up to this man. I mean, who is he? Who is he?
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Gentlemen, let's go to some of the comments here. And please take notes. You can respond to them individually, or you can take notes. Let's go to Mr. Robert Gagua Jr. here. He said, but Mr. Dualo and other won't speak to that. These guys are no different. We will continue to balance these dialogues. What did they do with the TRC report? Yet the opposition will embrace him in no time. Sad. Somebody want to take on that, or you want me to go through?
Well, since my name was mentioned, my brother Robert Gagua, I'm the number one person we've been advocating for the implementation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Prince Johnson should not be in our ballot politics. Nobody who participated in the war should be. I don't know how many times we're going to repeat this, but President Weah has shied away. The CDC-led administration, they preached the implementation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission if they had come to power. They did come to power. They refused to enforce it. Who owes the greatest onus here if it's not the CDC-led administration? Let them enforce the law today. We want the laws enforced. We want Prince Johnson out of the fray. We're not asking for Prince Johnson's vote. We are asking for the vote of the people of Nima County. They are mutually exclusive. They're not one and the same. It's you guys that are describing as such. Give it to you guys.
Okay, we got Elvis Morris. You want the phone lines open. We'll see if we can get to that. The numbers are there. Let's go to Glenda's here. Glenda say it's pretty late now. I guess maybe referring to you.
CDC. Yeah, referring to CDC, yes. She's referring to CDC is late for them. They can't do anything else now.
Okay, Mr. Ben, you got Frank Davis here. He says, so true, Mr. Ben. You got a fan here. Let's go to Glenda's again. Yeah, he's saying Weah is doing a lot for Nimba.
That's what you said. Yeah, she's referring to you.
Yes, a lot for Nimba, and I can name them. Let's go to Josephus Shad Tutman. George Weah himself need to face justice. 2, because George Weah supported the war too. Well, anybody want to address that? Any evidence here? Anybody have evidence here that George Weah?
When we don't go to court, we don't present the evidence. There are reports. They're unsubstantiated, but there are reports that President Weah participated with some funding of the war.
Can you post that report, please?
Okay, they post that report. My boy, you can call about that report.
No, these are the kind of thing that kind of take the importance away from some of the things that we discuss. Because if somebody just come and make a mere allegation, there's nothing in terms of fact, in terms of in terms of pieces of evidence, and other people continue to repeat that. It muddies the water. It muddies the water. If I have accusation against anyone, I will want to have it backed up with pieces of evidence, corroborated evidence. That
you would just call every small criminal, John. Ben.
No. I said how.
And I believe he's a criminal. I already believe he's a criminal.
No.
Where's your evidence?
I said, how did this man become so rich? I asked a question. That's what I said. I said, how did this man become so rich? Because let me tell you this, Dualu, I know you are aware. Here, they have what they call lifestyle audits.
I agree.
When your income,
we can lifestyle audit him.
That's what I'm telling you. When your income is incompatible with your lifestyle, the IRS will investigate you. They will investigate you. So that's what I was saying. I hope the GAC and the LACC can pay attention to those kind of things, because if we sit in Liberia and the Treasury Department come and convict our officials, that means the GAC and the LACC, they are doing no work. So maybe they need to raise their standards. I asked a question, and I think it's a legitimate question in terms of how some of these people accumulated their wealth. It's questionable. We don't have the evidence, but we have to say, well, can the LACC look into this? Can the GAC look into this? That's what I'm talking about.
But we would not allow it.
Okay,
would not allow
guys. Glenda again said this thing.
But can I chime in real quick? I have to side with Ben. Ben, it's quite evident who've been to Liberia several times. That is the nature of business over there. Yeah. People do all kinds of things that are going on over there. It's not correct. They're bending the rules. They're doing all. It's easy to do it, and nothing's going to come out of it. It's very, and you're right. It's all America has to before you see something happening, because all the instances supposed to correct these things have been compromised. You say they bring a report, nothing happens. So the next person that got it will not even do anything. Even sometimes when they case reach that, they will not even investigate it. They will just go. This is how it is, and this is what I'm saying. We think our country is going to go anywhere, continue this practice again and again and again and again. That soon you get in a position, you do anything you want, you go. The next person comes, the thing you go. The country will never go nowhere until we get fed up with this and make up our minds that anybody you pay government money, you'll go to jail, and we'll confiscate it. We haven't reached that point. America with these sanctions, maybe they're trying to help, but we're not there.
Mr. Ben.
Yes, sir.
Glendy is saying this thing that we have started basically is now going to deteriorate into pulpit versus pulpit, basically pastor versus pastor. And does it have the propensity of creating a small screen that we're going to be discussing something and actually take our eyeballs from the main subject here?
Yes, you see, this is one of the things probably I want to say is very important to me. You see, it kind of leads me to the first thing that we discussed. There were very, very many young men and women yesterday who wore blue T-shirts, blue berets or red berets. What was missing is the fact that almost 85% of the young people in Liberia, they are unemployed. Those are the kind of issues that should kind of push us on these kind of shows.
Yeah,
last year we spent the biggest amount ever in the history of Liberia, 800 million plus. What did we accomplish from that? No budget performance report, nothing, zero. These are the kind of arguments I want the opposition to be making. George Weah, you spent this amount of money. Where is the budget performance report? I have a USAID report in my hand, a USAID. These are independent actors. They said 45% of death of children under 5 years old is a result of malnutrition. President Weah, what are you doing about this? It's okay to bring the people in the street. It's okay to bring them in the street, but there must be programs, there must be strategies, there must be initiated in terms of you trying to correct some of the ills that afflict the society. Those are the kind of things I want. I don't want people to say, oh, no. CDCs, your life has to improve. Whether you wear the red beret, you don't go to school, you go, something positive has to happen for you. George Weah is riding, God knows how many $1,000 car. A car great job. He married a woman in France. Look at his district. These are the kind of arguments, these are the kind of discussion you should be having with Akara Gray's constituents. That yes, you support this. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You see, and thank you, Mr. Gaiman. I don't want all these fluffs to take away from the major issue. I will stress this. The World Bank has declared that poverty in Liberia is going to rise consecutively in the next 3 years. What programs does this government has in terms of in terms of addressing that? We already have the information. Inflation is out of whack. They just fabricate the numbers. Inflation in Liberia does not. We have a poverty that is out of control. These are the kind of things we're supposed to be discussing and finding possible solutions, even with CDCs, because the poverty affects ordinary CDCs too. So these are the kind of dialogues I want. Thank you,
Mr. Jimmy Eastman. Mr. Jai wants to know, or maybe from the Prince Johnson and the hostage situation, is it over? Or we know people like Tyler, everybody else that's juggling for position. Are they also hostage taker or attempted hostage taker, or we are just seeing it being over from one end? I think Jai want to know here, is the hostage situation over, or he think it's over? Mr. Dualu, if you are listening, because
Well,
basically,
what?
I don't think
hostage in 2004.
Hostage or what?
Hostage.
We are saying that Prince Johnson have had the country basically in our political dispensation. He had the country hostage since 2004. Okay, is it over, or is just over with him? But other hostages are still around, or other people like Tyler, or other political leaders now, or other people who know they can't win, but they're negotiating behind the scene. And they're using their influence. Either they are popular in their county and they're using that as a way of getting an upper hand. Prince Johnson did it since 2004 effectively. And Brother Jai is saying he thinks it is over. But I'm saying to you, is it over, or is it only over for Prince Johnson? Anybody can take a stab at it. Yeah, anybody can take a stab at it.
It's not. I don't think Prince Johnson, look, let me tell you something. And people will not, I will say this very slowly. Prince Johnson is a master manipulator. He understands Liberian politics. Say what you will about the man, because the people of Lima County has allowed him to play that role. And I think he's played that role quite well. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, we have to understand the way our people vote in Liberia forces one person to control the entire county and hold them hostage. I don't like to think about it as hostage. I think it's poverty stage, because people are so poor, they are forced into a predicament where they will behave in a certain faction. And I think Prince Johnson exploits it quite beautifully. I don't think it's over, because Honorable Prince still have tremendous sway in Lima County. I think he will still influence the vote in the direction that he so pleases. President Weah and the people of CDC will still go to Prince Johnson's house at night. And I can guarantee you, Prince Johnson will do everything he can to shame them. Because like I said, President Weah crossed the Rubicon today, and Prince Johnson is going to hit back hard. And I can't wait to see it.
UP, nice try. Ben, Riverside Pro wants to know this. I mean, he thinks that Prince Johnson is writing a new chapter into the ANC. He thinks that Prince Johnson's, maybe the Unity Party may not have the belly to withstand him, but he thinks the ANC, based on the record, that they are now basically recruiting the worst of the worst. Prince Johnson will not be any different from Louis Brown and the rest of the guys in there. They are actually declared that this is a new Big Ten. It includes everybody until a court of competent jurisdiction convicts you, you are okay. They're not into the moral shaming. As long as you are not guilty, Prince Johnson is not guilty. Whether you say he killed somebody, those, according to ANC, they are all allegations.
Well, my good friend Dualu, probably tonight we're going to talk for a long time. Dualu is a brother of mine. I am kind of I'm kind of shook up. Because I don't know, you just said it on the show that Dualu now has pitched his tent with the Unity Party. Unity Party. Under the Unity Party in 2010, Liberia became the most corrupt nation in the world. We had that designation. We took that prize. I mean, Joseph Boakai has been one of the most incompetent individuals you can ever imagine. And this man, Dualu, is a young man, Marine. I mean, Dualu will support this man to be president. I will support Dualu to be president. I will support Joe Boakai to be president. That job is rigorous. And it shows that to some extent, not Dualu per se, our young people, the societal, how do you call it, forces have pushed them to an extent where most of them don't believe in themselves. Look at me. I'm telling you, I have people like derision and cursing. Some people, no. You're too young, you do this. No. Presidency in Liberia should even start from 35 years old, contesting for that job. I mean, Joseph Boakai is spent since Talbot, since Samuel Doe, interim government, everything this man has been. I mean, there's nobody else in Liberia that can replace this man. There's no one else. There's no vibrant Liberian that want to take this job. It shows that the society is overwhelmed with what I call inertia. The young people we need to push these people off the stage. Last thing I want to say in terms of that, because of where we are right now, Cummings, Waka, we don't have sufficiency in terms of narrative to counter George Weah. I mean, where are we going back to? I mean, to the Unity Party, who was in power 12 years and ran Liberia into the ground. That's what we're going to. Cummings, who now probably has open arms to whoever can come in. No, Dwalu and other guys, you know, myself, other people, we can band ourselves together and say, no, it is time for a change. We can provide sufficient counter narrative to George Weah. But meanwhile, we are delegating what we're supposed to do to other people. You know, you expect Joseph Boakai to bring changes to Liberia, then I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Cummings has zero clue in terms of what he's doing. I mean, look, from one misstep to the next, and these people are the alternative. No wonder we are where we are today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the close of our show. We have 6 minutes remaining here. We will give each of you a minute and a half to close, and I'm keeping my eye on it. Ladies and gentlemen, while you are it, we are here. This platform is trying to reach everybody in Liberia to educate and bring public awareness as it relates to the elections. We are trying to do some fundraiser here. So we have our Cash App or our Zelle number on here. Please do a general donation. Whatever it is that you have will do well for us. We need to pay folks to go from village to village, from town to town, to spread the good news of balance, not me, because I'm not balanced here. I support the president, even though I balance what I say, but I support the president. But this platform itself is neutral, as you can tell. Sometimes I accuse them for being anti-George Weah. But they're doing a great job. They have men and women on the ground that are going from town to educated folks. Please make a general contribution towards that. Mr. Ben, you got 1 minute. Close it, please.
Yeah, one quick. Are we taking calls? Are we taking calls?
Let's take a couple of calls. We're not?
We're not taking calls.
Let's take calls.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm looking at my
Yeah, the
phone.
number is, if anyone
Okay, the
want to
telephone
call.
number there is 605-313-6004, and the code is 791-403#. Tell us where you're calling from and your name.
We don't have callers yet.
Great.
Well, we don't have callers, but let me respond to Ben very quickly because Ben spoke my name. You said people like Dwala. Let me tell you something. I'll give you my reasons why I support Honorable Boakai. Boakai is not Ellen Johnson shall leave UP. There must be a lot of recalibration done for Liberia, and I believe Honorable Boakai is the best person to recalibrate this society. There'll be a better way to explain that. We don't have the time for it, but I believe Mr. Eastman was out for why he can come in and speak to that issue. But we get our explanations why.
It's closing time, guys.
Yes, I want to close because I need to attend another thing. Guys, what my closing statement is to every Liberian, especially the people from the CDC who were out there yesterday. I want to tell them this. Let them listen to me keenly. The average age in Liberia now is 19.4 years old. 19.4 years. That means you have almost the rest of your life ahead of you. You need leaders that have vision. You need leaders that will be invested in you. Your life needs to get better. Do not be used as props. I will say this. I mean, you see it said 38% of Liberian, 38% of 5.1 million people, they are malnourished. 85% of our young people have no jobs. Politicians have improved their lives. We can see it. Their evidence visible. We want programs that will be directed at improving the lives of every young man and woman in Liberia. You are not to be used as props. The people that you go out there to cheer, they must be invested in the improvement of your lives. Young people of Liberia, this election is critical. Focus on the issues and make sure that whatever transformation happens be directed at you. Thank you.
Great. We got 3 callers on the line. Callers, where you calling from, your name, please. Caller, your name and where you calling from.
Thank you, Mr. Gayman. This is Elvis. I'm calling from Minnesota, and thank you guys for the show tonight. I've been wanting to really call in because, I want to address what Mr. Eduardo has said tonight about Prince Johnson. But before I even get to my comments, I want to thank Mr. Ben for being principled and speaking, you know, the way he's supposed to speak on this issue. You know, in war times, they say the ground can suffer, but the ground also, you know, that metaphor includes innocent people. Say, for example, I'm a crime. We fought the people of Nima, so to say. Mr. Ben, I think, is maybe a crew or a group man. People from his tribe who was mistaken for being crime because they had a name like Dole, or they had similar name that sounded like a crime name, was being killed. Prince Johnson was in nuclear time, killing people, the crew, the group of people, killing them, you know. And people, like he said, people that from his family died. And who I know, I understand to be a Bassa man, maybe he wasn't affected by it, or his people wasn't targeted. So he sits here and plays light out of the issue as a Marine, as an accomplished person. He's playing light out of the issue. Every warlord, whether that George Bowley, whether that Prince Johnson, whether that Roland Dewey, or anybody who participated in the war should be brought to justice. But for Dualu to sit on this platform and try to laugh about it and smile about it as if this is some kind of theater where everything is fun and everybody should enjoy it is wrong. And the Indians who are out there who will be swayed and pulled by the nose by one man, that's also telling, because your hero is somebody who killed a lot of people, and the same thing will go for my kinsmen if they were in the political arena. So I wanted to call ready to to set things straight. I'm glad you didn't open the line earlier because I was going to go a bit nuclear. But thank you to Mr. Ben for being balanced on this platform. And those who taking it for joke, Prince Johnson will get his comeuppance. It's coming very soon. Things will happen in that country. They say when the justice system don't work, other systems will work. I can tell you this for a fact. There's still bad blood. There's still tension there. We know. We talk to our people back home. If the TRC don't come, you'll see a scrimmage or something will happen in that country to settle the scores. But thank you so much, Mr. John, for opening the line. Thank you.
Evans, are you threatening war?
Mr. Dualo, please take note. Let's go to the second call.
Yeah, I took note. Yeah.
Caller, your name and where you calling from? Teddy.
Yeah. Hello.
Teddy Yakon. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. This is Teddy Yakon. Thank you for taking the call. My name is Teddy Lion Yakon from Fargo, North Dakota. I support this president due to things the president has been doing, and I'm for the 80-year-old man, and I understand that a lot of things happen in our country, but from experience that President Weah has shown to many Liberians that he's the one that coming up with many new things that we have not seen before in the country. He's developing the country, and when you want to compare him with Joseph Waka and others, President Weah is the best. For typical example, the speech he gave for almost 3 hours plus, that shows that he's energized to do the job. Because this job, the intricacy of this job, is so complicated.
Speak to the show, Teddy.
He's a strong, energized president. So they Mr. Fine, presidential aspirant in the studio there. I know he's very technical on President Weah, but he also trying to allude to some of the good foundation President Weah has set for the young people to take over. For typical example, if the past leadership have set up some of these foundation or carry on all these mechanisms in place, this government would have been strangulating with many things. But despite that, the COVID 2.5 years was set. But this person still showcase and stay proof to the Liberian people. I don't know what more he can do for her to have that confidence in him that in 12 years will be very genuine for the person to accomplish his mission for Liberia. But the person is some multiple development all over the place, all the work sectors. The person has touched those places. So the president is, keenly, contemplating on creating Liberians' own factories, like what Jackie is doing, and other, rich people in the country can showcase that we can have our own factories, and we can also encourage international investors in the country, where we improve the justice system, and oppositions are continue to sell red meat out there. For the country, for the initial stage of this government, saying that also group of ANC or people in England saying that there will be no support for the government. The government will stop international support to this government. So those people had their own, they said they have their own mind this government, but this president is in a rightful, position for all Liberians. It's not just for citizens. That's the most important thing about president. That's why yesterday you saw the people came out.
Thank you, Terry.
They will not just be coalition, they will not just be coalition to support this president.
Because you're not speaking to the show, you're only making a monologue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teddy. God bless. The next caller, please. Your name and where you calling from?
Hey, this is Robert Garboy. I'm so sad that I'm not on the show right now. My blood is blowing. But look, let me say this. I respect all of you guys on the show. I got to give it out to Ben fan. We don't always agree. I think Ben has been excellent. But let me speak to my dear friend and brother Drago. When he look, this is why I let focus on like this. It's a neutral show. It's not. It doesn't focus on one candidate and a message that everyone must agree with. But when Drago sit on this platform and talk about, it is because of people like George Weah. It's because of George Weah that people like Prince Johnson are still around. It speaks to the hypocrisy of the opposition. You can't blame. Look, George Weah has plenty of issues, leadership issues, economic issues, plenty. We can talk all day. But how can we honestly blame George Weah that has only been president for under 6 years for the enormous role or importance that politicians for decades and the failed system have made Prince Johnson like a king. Prince Johnson is a king. George Weah, I blame George Weah for not doing it, but even embracing Prince Johnson. He should not have accepted his endorsement. Well, why is Drago not speaking on the fact that Elder Johnson said he had the opportunity to implement a TRC report that just would not have held people like Prince Johnson accountable, but herself accountable, and to it for dust to pick it up, and now he's blaming George Weah for why Prince Johnson has been around. And people are talking about, well, we must persecute George Weah. Let's persecute all criminals. But let me say this. When we stop being selective in who is a warlord, who are criminals, then we have a serious problem. Because we can't honestly sit there and talk about George Weah's participation in the war, and then yet still sinking purchase of Prince Johnson or killer, sinking purchase of Ben and Ayure, or a criminal, a proven criminal, sinking purchase of Elder Johnson, Sullivan, and others. It speaks to hypocrisy in our democracy, and we must stop it. One last point I want to make is this. I feel bad for my brother Drago. The fact that he continuously go out his way to support Joseph Waga and Unity Party is sad. I understand he couldn't handle the heat from the UP boys, but how can you go from a man, irrespective of all of his own downfall, Alice Cummings, a man who has never been accused of any crime whatsoever, irrespective of leadership issues in Liberia, to a Joseph Waga who's been around for 40-something years with absolutely nothing to show, and a Unity Party who had the opportunity for 12 years to change the dynamics and the trajectory of our country, but underperformed. It's sad. It's sad.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I say, Jerome, allow me to go real quick. I think something is very important, as we know that ill feelings still linger till today.
You
like
got
one of the callers said.
One more caller, please.
Okay, one more caller. Your name and where you calling from?
Caller, go ahead. Your name and where you calling from?
Yes, I was listening to the show. It's kind of interesting. Thank you for taking my call. This is Samuel calling from Georgia.
Samuel William Davis?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was listening to the show. One of the things I kind of surprised, sometimes
we take these things like, say, personal about it. And we should, when people who seem to be educated, when it comes on shows like this where hundreds or thousands of people are watching, they should come up with facts. And sometimes when some of these things are not true, it makes some of us, feel that kind of way. Like the first caller, was saying, like the brother who was talking about Marine. We know that, look, there was those days that people could fool Liberians who are not travel because we take America like heaven, that anybody that from America, anything it says, is true. We're talking about Marine. Yes, Zolizo in Liberia there, he also was in a Marine. What happened to him? For him to come on this show and then to say things about Doe, we knew that the administration was bad. But for him to come without factual evidence to prove that all the things that he accused of Doe of, and it's wrong. The same thing that Prince Johnson did. Prince Johnson said that Doe, say a mass grave where take a truck full of Nigerian children and bury them alive, which was not true. And he that talking, you know that in the Doe government, there were more Nigerians that were official of government in Doe government than even the crown people. For him to come here because he want to have their Marine, for him to say those kind of thing, it's wrong. And you should not allow it. You should not allow those kind of thing to come on the show. You know that the chief cook at the mansion was from Nimba. The physician was from Nimba. You know that, and the special aide to Doe and Johnny Paul was from Nimba. Do you know that the very Prince Johnson came more Nigerian educated people than even the Doe regime? Who came Jackson Doe? It was because Jackson Doe and Doe trying to make peace, the Saniquative peace talk after the Nimba raid. That when the same Nimba people killed Jackson Doe, that he betrayed them by siding with Doe. So this nonsense has to stop. We are all Liberians.
Thank you.
As the brother said, there are so many people who suffer that Prince Johnson killed. Why you can't talk about, I wrote something on your page. Why you can't talk about the atrocity that Prince Johnson caused? Then you want to sit down here to talk about Doe? We got to stop all the things.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like Mr. Dualo, you are on fire.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but Dualo, just before you talk, can I just mention?
Hello?
You got another caller?
Go ahead. Yes, your name and where you calling from?
Yeah, my name is T. Smith. I'm calling from Ohio.
T. Smith?
T. Smith, yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I just want to say that people who talk about Prince Johnson in Nimba County, I'm from Nimba County, and Joe Weah knows very well that Prince Johnson is TRC supposed to say to quote, war quote, when he came to power, campaigning for the presidency, he was parading with Prince Johnson all over Nimba County, and to solicit a vote for Nimba County through Prince Johnson. So that today now the Prince Johnson will be somebody because he go against him. So that's not balancing right there. So you know that Prince Johnson was a warlord. He was behind him, going from campaign to band to all over Nimba County to get a vote. Now he get a vote now. He can't help Nimba County. So now Prince Johnson go against him now. So everybody say, oh, Prince Johnson is a warlord, it's a this and that. So we can have a kind of double standard in Liberia. We cannot face anything if we go through this way. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Okay, Dualo, it's all yours.
Any more callers?
That's the caller we have.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me say this very quickly. I'll start from the bottom with my brother Sam. And Sam mentioned about Zolizo. Zolizo was in the army, actually. He was not in the Marines. And nobody was hiding behind the Marines under any circumstance. And I want to be very clear about that, sir. I'll say something about Doe. Whether you know this or not, this is not something that's coming from me. This is documented evidence. Doe murdered innocent Liberians in Nimba County and across the country. He himself sent troops into Nimba County. I know you can jump up and down. Doe was not the perfect person he thought he was. He killed innocent Liberian citizens. He murdered them. Even though Ben Fanier here, he deified Sambia and Doe, Ben himself can state that fact here. Doe was a murderer and a dictator. This is not an argument. Number two, To my brother Robert Gagua about PYJ, you know, Robert was talking, but he was contradicting himself in the same sentence. Okay, I've stated here repeatedly that the likes of Prince Johnson and anybody who kill anybody in our country should not be in politics in Liberia. They should not be in the political space under any circumstance. But Prince Johnson remains there, not because Waldo puts him there, but because this is what the system is in Liberia. I have no control over it. You can't tell me, say, oh yeah, it's true. Prince Johnson has made a huge issue in Liberia because the likes of George Weah brought him into the fold. They're in the same sentence. You say, well, you can put all the blame on George Weah because George Weah was not the only person should have been done by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. George Weah has the responsibility now to take care of that. He has not done it better. Robert Gagua, you should understand what you're saying. And to my brother Elvis, look, I love when people that Elvis call. I love the discourse in a way. Disagreement is very important. At no time, under any circumstance, have I ever said Prince Johnson should be given any validity in the country. Nor do I celebrate the murders that Prince Johnson did in our country. No point whatsoever. Now, I will say this to you. I'm not too big to say this. If I was laughing with something that you consider very serious, I will apologize for that, but that was not my intent. But to sit here and say Prince Johnson is a non-entity in Liberia, that's not true. It's a big factor in the country because a certain segment of our population has made this man a factor in our country. So, my brother, understand this. It's not putting crown people down. I don't know any crown person. I don't know to say, oh, this is crown team. I understand what I'm telling you. And what I'm telling you is fact. It's not something that I'm saying. Prince Johnson is a very important political character in Liberia. Take it or leave it, but the fact remains. I'll give it back to you guys.
Thank you. Mr. Eastman,
I'd like to make a couple of statements. Jerome, please allow me. And you know, there is an enemy amongst us in the Liberian and state and culture. But that enemy is not from somebody from a tribe. That enemy is not somebody from a ethnic group. The enemy of Liberia is greed. When people do things because of their own greed and cause problems for their kinsmen and for other people, that's what we are seeing in Liberia. It is not a tribal thing. It is a human thing that greed has led people to do things they're not supposed to do. If we don't properly identify the enemy, we'll keep on making fuss among ourselves. The enemy is greed. You won't put corruption there, or it causes you to put order in there. So that is why we cannot continue allowing this culture where we feel sorry for you. You take some money and nothing come out of it. That is where all this thing coming from. And it looks like tribalism, or it look like this, but we know people, they use their people to go against somebody for their own greed. We have to be very, very careful. They will continue using us. The problem is greed and dishonesty. Anyone, no matter where you come from, if you're doing these things, they don't mean good for you. They don't mean good for me. And if we maintain that middle line,
I'm begging you, Mr. Eastman, this is about tribe. This is about tribe here. My brother Lawson Zilli is about tribe here. I have to address this because I know our people disagree with what Samuel Kyan did to Liberia. Doesn't mean you oppose crown people. Under no circumstance. When I say I don't know any crown person, I mean I don't know any crown person that did something with. I don't mean like a bunch. I live in Worcester here. There's a lot of crown people here that I do know. Let me clarify that. Don't try to make anything tribalistic. This is a fact. Samuel Kyan don't murder Liberian citizens. If that means I'm opposing crown people, I can't help you with that kind of thinking. Go ahead.
Yeah, so again, I would say we have to identify the real enemy. And the real enemy is the person who is greedy, who wants to take things that doesn't belong to them, that belongs to the people. I don't care who it is. We should be against anybody who wants to take things illegally from Liberia and rape Liberia and not give our youth a chance to survive. That is the real enemy. So if we don't keep that in mind, we'll keep on making the same mistakes. The enemy is corruption and greed. Anybody who's doing it is an enemy to all of us, no matter where you come from. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Great show. Hopefully we can do that next time. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the close here. Thank you very much for sharing the show. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you for your call. we are all Liberians, and I'm trying to say this. When somebody does well, you have to praise them. It is all about hard work. And this, I will take off my cap to the chairman of the CDC, Mr. Moluba Molu, for putting in the work. Whatever resources you had to your disposal, you used it, and the people came out. When I turned to my city of Buchanan, saw tons of people coming out. I turned to Saniquilli, all over the country. That was the first of its kind when we talk about diversifying the economy, the politics. That's what we are talking about. You didn't have to come from Saniquilli or come to Monrovia to prove your allegiance and your loyalty to the president. So doing it out of the place, it is one of the things that Dualo and I have always talked about, we agree on. There's nothing wrong with taking the Ministry of Agriculture from Monrovia and taking it to Lofa. Taking one ministry to each county. You are diversifying. We talk about maybe 10,000 people or 5,000 people at each of the ministries. Can you imagine putting 10,000 employees in Vanjima, putting 10,000 in Buchanan, 10,000 in Harper City, and you worry about Monrovia being overcrowded? So this is maybe a first step in seeing that we can self-govern. Everything does not have to be in Monrovia. I know that's how it was set up, but it doesn't have to remain that way. So I take off my hat to the chairman of the CDC, Mr. Moluba Molu, for pulling this off, and the folks came out in their numbers. And it was peaceful. And we prayed.
And put your name in Zico.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it was peaceful. So we look forward to doing the same thing with the ANC, with the Unity Party, with the Liberty Party. It's all fun. After, when it's all done, we are all Liberian. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Same place, same time.
Thank you, bro.
We are Liberian.